I'm about to ask you to do something crazy. I want you to consider, just for a moment, taking the list of things you need to do to improve yourself in 2025 and throwing it away. Because here's the thing. I don't think that list of resolutions is going to get you where you want to go. Honestly, I don't have anything against personal growth, and I also don't have anything against setting small, achievable goals that actually move me toward that process. But I think that a lot of times what happens at the beginning of every year is we hype up the new year, we say this is going to be our year, and we set unrealistic resolutions that end up going nowhere, just frustrating us and making us feel worse about ourselves than we already did. And I realize that you may not be ready to hear this. After all, this video is going to go up right after the beginning of the year, and you may still be riding high on your list of resolutions, doing really well. And if so, that's great. Good for you. Just promise me that you'll bookmark this video and watch the rest of it in February or March or, July or October, when your resolutions start falling through and you're not sure what to do. Because we can resolve to do new things, to start new habits, whatever. But that's not actually what most of us need. I don't think anyway. I think most of us need less. We need physical, mental, emotional, even spiritual space to reflect on the things that really matter the most to us. So much in our culture tells us that we have to have more to be more. We have to squeeze more things into our calendars and optimize our schedules so that we can do the most. We have to make more money or be really good at shopping the sales so we can buy the most. And all of those things are supposed to add up to make us better people, to make us wiser, more attractive, more, fun to be around, I guess. But that's not really what happens, does it? And what I'm slowly starting to discover is that I think that the secret to living a fulfilling life is not adding more and more and more and more and more, but actually being okay with taking things away and intentionally having less. I don't want to be super general here, so let's take my previous year's resolutions for 2024 as an example. I had a list of things that I wanted to do. And I was trying to keep it minimal because I've read Atomic Habits, I've read a lot of the books, and I know that focus is really your friend when it comes to forming new habits and goals, right? But I still got a little bit carried away. So let's see how these looked. I have other goals listed here, and that's because I also had some therapy goals, which I'm not super comfortable sharing at this point. I mean, maybe someday, but we're just going to focus right now on my New Year's resolution type goals. But I had, first of all, take preemptive staycations to combat fatigue and burnout and help us connect with each other. My goal was quarterly, and I needed to talk to my husband about a possible schedule in order to get that on the calendar. I did not do this. In fact, we only did one staycation. It was in December. It was my husband's idea. I completely forgot that this was a goal. I did not do it. Now, would this have maybe been a good thing to do? The other time that we've done a staycation, which I actually talked about on this YouTube channel and I can link to, we had a great time. It was very refreshing. It was very helpful to us. And this might have been a good thing, but what ended up happening was I had other goals, in terms of connecting with people that I care about, keeping my house at a certain level of maintained, helping people, whatever. Would it have been a good idea to have staycations? Yes. Was I emotionally okay without them? Also, yes. All right, this next thing is take care of my body. And I've really been on a journey, and I feel like I still am, in terms of being kinder to myself about my body, about my food, my weight, my exercise habits. And you can definitely see here that I'm still very much struggling with this at the end of 2023. I want to eat veggies at lunch and dinner, which, obviously good thing to do that. Get to a healthy weight. I'm not exactly sure what that meant to me. Probably a good BMI. Build muscle 2 to 3 times a week, stretch once per week, exercise, aerobics/movement 3 times a week, focus on eating balanced meals most of the time, and do self-care 4 to 5 times weekly. This is really where things started to get out of control. Not that any of these things are bad on their own, but you can see like I am trying to do everything all at once. And I can go down this list, right? Like eating veggies at lunch and dinner. I ate veggies most of the time at dinner. I don't know that I would say that I did very well on the lunch part. Get to a healthy weight. I think I still weigh what I weighed before. And that's okay. Build muscle. I did do some strength training this year, but not, 1 to 2 times per week. Stretch, same. Exercise, aerobics and movement 3 times per week. I mean, I walked my dog, but I didn't necessarily do like really heavy exercise 3 times a week. I never have, except for maybe like a few months here or there in my life. Focus on eating balanced meals most of the time. Did okay with this sometimes, not okay. And then self-care, I think I probably did the best with because I've been on a journey integrating that into just my daily rhythms and also just sort of rethinking what I think of as self-care, right? So all of these things didn't do super well on. I think self-care is the thing I did the best on. And obviously there's still room for improvement there. And then I had these business goals as well. Channel Makers is the training that I use to grow my YouTube skills. I did not make it 3/4 of the way through as far as I know, but I did make progress on it. And then reading new books for Worthy Hours, I did not read 15 new books. I did read some, but I did not read 15. Now, the thing about this list is that you take anything on this list and it's not a bad thing. And except for maybe like this exercise, which that is a pretty big number for me to go from 0 or once to 3. They don't even seem particularly unreasonable or undoable. But the thing is I made these goals at the beginning of the year and then I pretty much forgot about them. And I think that my life was actually better for that. It allowed me to grow and develop along the lines that I needed to grow and develop this year based on what's happening in my life. And yeah, there's nothing wrong with having a direction that you want to go in, but I think you're going to be best served by choosing one thing and one thing only. So basically, if I could go back in time and talk to past me a year ago, I would tell myself to chill out a little bit about the resolutions. Not that there's anything bad on this list, and not that I wouldn't like to do any of those things at some point in my life, but I just tell her to chill out. And I think that this is mostly because I have a bit of a new perspective heading into 2025. I have some things coming up health-wise. I need to have a surgery. I may or may not have some more serious health issues that we find out after that surgery. And so at this point in my life, the best thing that I can do is to hold things very, very loosely, to understand that this is what my therapist says all the time. Life happens on life's terms, and I don't like that. If you're a goal setter, a resolution maker, I'm sure that you don't like that either. You're thinking, I can set these resolutions, and then no matter what life throws at me, I will overcome them. I will meet these resolutions. And you can try that. If you can achieve that, good for you. But for me, what happens is every single year I fall into this trap of forgetting that life has unexpected surprises for us, good ones, bad ones, in between ones. And sometimes we don't know what those things are. And so we're not actually able to choose the right goals. And so sticking yourself with a very long list of things that may or may not be relevant to the season of life that you're in, do you really need that? Or do you just need less? So, a year older, a year wiser me, what I'm trying to take into 2025 is the knowledge that life does throw curveballs and that the best thing I can do to prepare for them is not to hype myself up to power through them, but to leave space in my life to deal with them graciously, gracefully, and to actually learn from them instead of trying to ignore them and push past them and then failing to do that and failing to reach my goals. So in order to do that for 2025, my resolution is to do less, and specifically to give myself 3 gifts of less this year. The first is less self-improvement. Not saying no self-improvement, just less, because it can get a little bit out of control. More and more, I am finding that the best way to improve myself is not to make long lists of things that need to be improved, but to make small, achievable goals that are heading in the right direction. And also to leave space for the things that God wants to teach me through my life right now. Like, I'm a Christian, and so I believe that there's a lot of purpose behind some of the things that happen to us. And I will be honest with you, there have been some tough things for me this year, and it's been hard for me to see that purpose. But I'd be lying if I didn't look back on 2024 and go, I did not want to learn the lessons that I had to learn this year, but I did learn things. I did grow. And that was the right thing for me at the time, right? Like, I could have focused on my fitness goals and ignored the fact that I was grieving this year. I was, having health scares this year. But was that what I needed to learn this year? Or did I need to learn how to cope with really tough things in my life? I think what's going to serve me better moving forward is the things that I learned in dealing with the tough things. So my recommendation for you, if you would also like to give yourself the gift of less self-improvement, not no self-improvement, but less pressure to be perfect all the time in everything, is this. If you can't bring yourself to get rid of all your self-improvement resolutions for the new year, that's okay. Just pick one that relates to where you are in your life right now. And whatever it is, this is a tip from Jon Acuff in his book Finish that I absolutely love. Whatever that goal is that you've set, cut it in half. If you achieve it quickly, great. You can always change it later. But take the pressure off of yourself to do everything all at once. Pick one thing, cut it in half. The other thing is, whenever and wherever you can, make your resolutions for this year, make your goals that you make throughout the year about less. If that means cutting most or all of the resolutions you've already created and written in your cute little journals or online or wherever you put it, do that. I mean, I'm a minimalist, so I don't know what you expected. Like, you should expect me to say to cut things out, to get rid of them. That's kind of like what I try to do in my life with my stuff, whatever. And I really do think that this will give you the gift of being able to breathe, of having space to deal with things that come up, and also being able to focus on the most important things in your life. But obviously, I said 3 gifts of less, so we're not just going to stop at self-improvement. The second gift I have been giving myself, and I will continue to give myself this year, is the gift of less stuff. I think especially when things are tough in our lives, or on the other side, when we're at a point in our year, like a lot of us are in the new year, where we're thinking about the ways that we want to improve, we end up gathering a lot of stuff. And all this stuff is like based off of idealized versions of ourselves. We're like, oh, I'm going to buy this thing because I'm going to exercise a ton this year. Or, oh, I'm going to buy all the supplies for a new hobby that I'm going to pick up. And then we never pick it up. I've talked about this in both of my most recent videos, but a lot of times we hold on to things and or purchase things that we don't need and won't use because we associate them with idealized versions of ourselves, the people that we want to become in a perfect world. And it is really hard to not fall into the trap of thinking that if you just own the right stuff, you can be the person that you want to be. To a certain extent, it's true, right? Like, if you want to improve your cooking skills and you own no pans, you need to go out and buy a pan, right? But that's not like a life-changing amount of things, right? And by and large, most of the things that we buy are not making our lives easier. They're not turning us into the people that we want to be. But even though that's the case, we keep falling into this trap of thinking we're just buying the wrong things because we are surrounded by advertisements that tell us that. They tell us that if we will just buy their product, it will solve our problems with ourselves. And it's patently not true, because if it was, we would reach a point where we had all the right things and we had solved all of our problems in life, but that doesn't happen, right? Like, you buy the thing and maybe it solves a little bit of your problem, but it doesn't solve everything, does it? And here's the thing. If that worked, it would be worth buying a ton of stuff and just having it. But since it doesn't work, what happens is we buy a lot of things, and those things take time, energy, and space to maintain, right? Like, you have to keep things organized so that you can find them and use them when you need them. You have to spend time looking for those things when your organization system inevitably doesn't work, as is often the case with me when I have too many things. Some purchases you make have like monetary recurring costs. You have to buy refills, you have to buy batteries, or you have to buy rechargeable batteries, or you have to buy insurance, or you have to buy subscriptions like for a Peloton or something. And all of these little things add up. They give you less time, less energy, less available finances for the things that truly matter in your life. And even if money isn't an issue, no matter how much you buy, you only have so much time and energy for maintaining your possessions. And so it's quite possible that the key to living the life that you want to live is to have fewer things, to have less stuff. Now, I'm not going to dive here into like step-by-steps for how to declutter, how to get rid of stuff. Like the rest of my channel has resources for that. I will continue to post about that this year. But I think the important thing for this video, as we're talking about doing less at the beginning of the year, is to know that even if you also need to give yourself the gift of less stuff, you don't need to go crazy making resolutions about this, right? Like we started with less self-improvement for a reason. You can see decluttering, going more minimalistic as self-improvement. And while that will make changes, positive changes in your life, you don't have to do it all at once. And in fact, if you try, you will run into problems, just like with any other goal. I think that if you want to do this, the most helpful thing to do is to picture one small piece of your home that you do want to declutter. Maybe it's a shelf, maybe it's a small room, and work on that at whatever pace you want until it's done. As you're doing it, notice how you feel lighter as you get rid of things. Maybe you're dropping something off at the donation center and you're driving away. This happens to me almost every time I take things to donate. And it's a great feeling. You just feel lighter. You feel like, oh my word, I don't have to worry about that stuff anymore. And as you continue to do that and you notice those positive feelings that you have, it will become easier and more exciting to get rid of the things that you don't actually need. And then the final gift of less that I'm giving myself this year is the gift of less information. Now, I've been on a little bit of a journey with this. I like reading and knowing things as much as the next person. My last job was very much like the culture was, we need to stay ahead of the trends. We need to be super informed. I don't think that I'm the only person that feels this way about work cultures like this, but I felt very overwhelmed a lot of the time by the amount of information I was expected to take in, digest, and then problem solve with, right? Like I can do a lot, but I can't do everything. And what I have realized since I started working for myself, and like ostensibly the risks are actually greater for me, is that if I focus on doing a few things very well, and I stay informed on a couple of things, that I don't really need all the rest of that stuff. The rest of it is kind of background noise. The more and more I practice disengaging from social media, disengaging from just the constant news cycle, I realize that the world does not end if I don't know things the minute that they're available to know, or if I never know things, right? Like there are things I am not going to know. And while I can learn, and I never want to stop learning and growing, I have to accept that I can't know everything and that it's not actually healthy for me to try. For a lot of people, some or all of that sounds radical, right? Like I talk to people who love the news and they say, how can you not watch the news? Don't you care about what's happening in the world? And the answer is, like, yes, I care about what's happening in the world, but there's nothing that I can really do about most of that. Like my capacity to act in ways that can help people on the other side of the world, even in other states, is quite limited. I don't have, a lot of money that I can throw at every single problem I become aware of. I don't have the capacity to personally care for a lot of the people that need care. So all I'm doing is getting myself worked up for no reason. And then the other thing is, like, there's a lot of people who will say, well, I just love staying connected with my family and friends, and so I could never leave social media. And I was a little bit worried about that, but what I've realized is, like, actually, when I limit my digital interactions to like texting and things that are a little bit more personal like that, my relationships have actually deepened since leaving social media. Like, I'm not trying to keep up with so many people that I never see anymore, and I'm actually able to focus on the people who are part of my life. I only have so much time and energy to absorb information, and so I want to make sure that the information that I am taking in is helpful to my life, is helpful to other people, and is actually relevant. And I should say that I have not quit social entirely. I do sometimes have to go on Instagram, TikTok, things like that to do research for work, my work as a freelance writer. And so when I do end up on more of those social media platforms, once a month is actually enough for me to scroll through the top few posts in my feed and go, oh, okay, someone's expecting, someone got engaged, something like those big life moments that I do actually care to know about. Great. Those are there right at the top. When you're not plugged in to that constant social media cycle, you start to realize that a lot of the things that you were paying attention to on social don't really matter, 2 weeks later, 1 week later. And it's very freeing. That being said, I do still get kind of tied up with my screens sometimes. Information, Googling things, whatever. And so the first thing that my husband and I are going to do this year to give ourselves this gift of less is we're going to do another digital detox. We did one last year, and at the time we said, okay, we want to do this every year. And so January seems like a very natural time. It's just a really helpful way to disengage from all the digital stuff that, is so addictive. And some of it's helpful, but when you take it all out, you're able to see what is helpful, what is not, and what you want to intentionally engage with going forward. And it's also a great opportunity to create space to see where those other places where I may need to have a little less are. So yeah, basically I made this video to tell you, don't feel bad about not reaching your resolutions. You probably don't even need to make any in the first place, because I'm betting that what you need this year is less. If you're anything like me anyway, that's what it is. So let me know in the comments if you think that's correct. And then if you are interested in having less stuff, I have a playlist here that can help you get started. If you are interested in learning a little bit more about the digital detox, maybe doing one yourself, I have this video here where I'm talking about how we set up our digital detox last time, and that what we're doing now is very similar to that. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great new year. Bye.